to me, the unifying thing, and one of the reasons why I think Allie and Colin and I feel so strongly about the coalition, is hospitality in general. When you provide a service, intangible, and yes, some people within this industry make flowers or take photos, and those are, yes, tangible, but for the most part, it's an experience that we're all working together to create.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. I can't believe we made it almost through, halfway through another week. Looking forward to having one of my favorite couples come on our IG Live tonight. We have Michelle MDurpetti and Collin Pearson. They are from Chicago, and they are, so they're part of the Illinois Events Coalition, which is an exciting new venture. You guys might have heard of me talking a little bit about them, what they're doing. You might see an events coalition in your area that has been doing amazing work in your local area. There are different coalitions throughout the United States, and they're really there to make sure that there is a unified voice in the events industry when it comes to letting the government know what's going on, what we need, and how we can be helpful, hopefully to them as they're trying to make decisions that really affect all of us. And that's what's really important. So Michelle and Collin there's Michelle, are going to be joining me. Give me 1 second here. Terrica, yes. Hey!
Hi.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. You guys always look so like wonderful and rested.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Talk to Colin for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Something beeping.
I love it. Too funny. You're back in Chicago now? Because I think the last time we spoke, you guys were you in Florida?
We were, and we actually have been in Chicago for several months now, but we're actually talking to you live from our camper because we took a few days out of the city. My horses were actually competing with my trainer, and I had the opportunity to compete a couple of days myself. And the camper is such a great way to stay safe with everything going on with COVID. So we pulled it out of storage, and we're up in Michigan today. So hello from our camper.
Oh my goodness. I love that. That's fantastic. Well,
yeah.
Congrats. How has it been showing, your trainer and yourself, but
it's interesting, there's this industry is going through the same thing that every other industry is going through. It's really socially based. There's hundreds and hundreds of horses that come to these competitions, and with them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, vets and trainers and owners and competitors. Yeah. So our temps get checked every day as we enter the competition. We're in masks the whole time unless we're riding. They've reduced all of the social elements to the competitions. Everything is socially distanced. They really monitor how many horses are in the ring. So they're doing their best. This horse show is called the Great Lakes Equestrian Festival, and they do a really great job of really seriously adhering to their COVID policies and procedures. So I have to give them a thumbs up for that. Having lived in COVID policies and procedures the last 2 months, I definitely can give them a round of applause. So, and it's been nice to have a little smidge of something that felt, familiar and normal when I'm those 3 minutes that you're in the ring competing. All of what is happening sort of can not be so prominently top of mind. And that's been a real gift.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great. And so now you guys are in Michigan right now, but so in case people don't know, you also have a restaurant.
Yes.
I think it's really interesting. And one of the things that I love is all the different perspectives of everyone who comes on and telling us different things that they're doing. And obviously the different kind of intersections that they have in different aspects of how COVID is affecting everyone. And so, one of the things, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about because you guys have, is it 2 locations or 1 location?
Yeah.
2 locations so one was downtown. So during the rioting and the protests and things, like there were some issues there. And then now that you're opening up and doing like contactless.
Oh yeah, Megan, it's a whole big story. So essentially, in addition to Collin being a wedding photographer and my being a planner, and then along with Allie Phillips, who I think is watching, hi Allie, we're part of the Illinois Events Coalition. My family has been in the restaurant industry in Chicago for 79 years. So we own a restaurant called Gene and Georgetti. Gene was my grandpa. Georgetti was his best friend and his partner for about 20 years until he passed away. And then ultimately my grandfather ran the restaurant for 20 years on his own until his death in 1989. Since then, my parents have had it, and I am now third generation. We have a total of 4 generations in my family in the restaurant industry. And our original location in Chicago is in the River North neighborhood. And then we also have a second location in Rosemont, which is essentially next to O'Hare Airport in the suburbs. And in addition to that being another steakhouse adjacent on the same property, we also have a venue as well. So when all of this COVID stuff started, raining down, we were feeling it pretty much everywhere you could feel it.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. In October of last year, our original location suffered a fire. And what is even more scary with that for us was the fact that our original location is a wood frame building that was built in 1874. And the legend has it that I don't know if it's true, but I think it's true.
We'll go with it.
It was built with scrap wood from the Chicago fire. So,
oh my.
And we had a grease fire. Thankfully, the wood frame building was not affected, but the kitchen was. So from October to about March 25th, we were rebuilding the kitchen. And we had some issues with insurance. So basically, we had to do it on our own. And long story very short, we were scheduled to do this huge grand opening the 25th of March and really bring all of our customers back and bring our staff back. Our Chicago team had been working in collaboration with our Rosemont team. So we tried to keep employees working at that time. Big parties planned, all this hullabaloo. And then, my mom's here. Hi, Mom. And then COVID. So I can't really take any credit. Collin decided to keep the contractors going so that our kitchen would be finished. And basically March 26th, we opened the Chicago location for delivery. It had never really done delivery or takeout before. Neither had our suburban location. And that was the first time I started disliking the word pivot. Because it was the first time that I was really like, pivot, using the word pivot. How we were packaging the to-go and the delivery, the containers we were using. How can you continue to make a personal connection with someone when they're getting food from a third-party delivery, right? So handwritten notes. And we were kind of learning as we went. And what ended up happening was our Chicago location, thankfully, had a really good supportive following. It's very much in a neighborhood. So delivery and pickup was very much a capability of that location, whereas our suburban location, being near the airport and surrounded by hotels, there's very few residents in the Rosemont, in the village of Rosemont. There's actually far more, I think 3 or 4 times more hotel rooms than there are actual residents. So we ended up temporarily closing that location for about two and a half months,
3 months,
while we sort of ran everything out of the Chicago location. Mm-hmm. And then about a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, we all experienced what was going on with the civil unrest throughout the country and then ultimately throughout the world. And, we were broken into and looted. Thankfully, and this is really this whole story is really a testament to the people that are a part of our team. But what I'm going to tell you specifically now, really still to this day, kind of makes me a little emotional. Our general manager, whose name is Yanni, and our executive chef, whose name is Luis, drove down to the restaurant when they heard about 12:30 at night. They heard that we had been broken into. They went and stood outside the restaurant for 4 hours. And non-violently spoke with people trying to come in and talk them out of coming into the restaurant. So I'm pretty reasonably certain that without them, I don't know that we would have had a restaurant. The area that we were in was hit pretty hard by the looting. Thankfully, though, we were able to file a claim, repair the damage, Neither Yanni or Luis was hurt, thank goodness. And about 6 or 7 days later, then we realized we had no outdoor dining space. And the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago was going to go al fresco, and we were going to be left behindo.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, so 79 years is, my father.
Perfect time.
Yeah, my father always says, it took us 74 years to open our second location. And my father always says, we don't like to do anything in haste, right? So 79 years for outdoor dining. Thanks to our business manager, Marissa, and again, my husband, and just a team like you can't imagine, from busboys to servers to managers to everyone you can imagine, sanding our emergency stairwell and repainting it on their own, designing what the alfresco dining should look like, launching it, and then ultimately managing it. And then I had this crazy idea in the midst of all of it. We have 2 windows in the property that no one ever noticed because the blinds were down. It's a steakhouse, so it kind of had a really dark mahogany kind of aesthetic. I like natural light, as you can tell, because it's like beaming on us right now. And so I was like, we got to open these blinds, and we got to open this window, because what if we don't get the outdoor permit? What if? So many what ifs now, right? And I'm sure everybody watching is like, dude, it's like the most common thing I say every day, because you just don't know. Let's be inspired by this thing I saw in Italy. These little, they call them buchetti di vino. What that translates to is like little cave of wine, little spot of wine. And in the 13 and 1400s, you could go knock on these, and during the plague or if establishment was closed, they could slide out a glass of wine. Okay, so I was like, well, we have a window and we have a bar that we can't use. Colin's like, well, we also have a relationship with Lavazza Italian Coffee. I said, great. So it's, instead of buchetti di vino, it's going to be window of cafe, right? So we run coffee and like breakfast sandwiches and these like creme and chocolate filled croissants in the morning. And then at night now, thanks to the state of Illinois, you can get cocktails to go. They're sealed and we can run it out the window. So that's sort of my nutshell of what we do these days. And like Collin just did a wedding. He had a small wedding 3 weeks ago. Yeah. My clients are primarily moved to 2021. We are seeing some resurgence in the restaurant of people wanting to do smaller celebrations, but that's kind of where we're at. We're coming off of 35 days of 18 hours. So I'm glad you think we look rested.
You look great. I'm like, whatever that is. That's awesome.
It's bronzer. It's all it is.
I love it. Well, mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, like that's insane. Like that's so,
yes,
I think absolutely. It's one of the things that obviously, I mean, with the 2 of you at the helm, it's like, of course it's going to be great, but like, it's more than a pivot. It's more than just, you know what I mean? Like there are so many things that you guys had to overcome, just specifically where you were located, all of the aspects of what's going on, but on top of that, the fire, and on top of that, everything. So, I mean, that's just amazing, but I can't imagine that. Plus, obviously you're a planner, Collin, you are a photographer, you know, doing all of those things at the same time and trying to really make it work for everyone. Cause that's a lot of responsibility, but it's also stress to figure out like, what's the right way to pivot when you really don't know what's going on next.
Well, absolutely. You know, in the restaurant industry, a lot of people outside of the industry say, well, at least, you know, you all can be open and you're all, you know, you may be limping, but at least you're limping. And I don't necessarily argue that point. However, I will say this, like the events industry, the restaurants within the restaurant industry don't have a switch that you can flip on and off. To bring a restaurant down and let it go dark, it takes a Herculean effort, just like an event or just like an event company, to put the switch back on. And so that alone is a lot to process. Then you figure, okay, now we are reopening and the majority of us are depending on delivery. Some of us, like we've even created a little grocery to go. We've gotten creative in what people can order via delivery, what they can do via pickup, family style meals, etc. We have no baseline, however, financially. Restaurants live in quarters, first quarter, second, etc. And they live in comparing numbers and then projecting forward. So where were you last year on this date?
Right.
Where are you today? What do you project for next year? And that's all like, right? You're like, our restaurant in Chicago that is 79 years old typically seats 220 people on a Saturday. Throughout its life, on a set, because it is definitely an entity, has opinions. I'm pretty sure my grandfather and Georgetti are still in there.
Oh, yeah.
The paintings always. My mom's probably like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that." I'm kidding, but my point is, throughout its life, it is on Saturday nights, during conventions, at peak times, done 700-800 covers in a day. In an evening, hundreds of steaks off those 3 broilers. And now you're looking at, oh, we have 56 covers. And you're like,
yeah.
What? Right. And it's, well, you shouldn't say anything. Your businesses were lucky enough to get PPP. I actually had, a vendor angrily confront me about that on social media, not to my actual face, but on social media. And my response was, we applied. We are a 79-year-old business. We want to stay alive. I have several hundred employees between my 3 sections of that business, the venue and the 2 restaurants. I will do whatever it takes to keep them working, to protect my parents, each other, and that legacy. That is the biggest part of my responsibility. I think second only maybe to the livelihoods of the people that work with us.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so, but the PPP eventually runs out, and how much of it is forgivable, and that changes every 60 minutes. And so, and you don't, if you need it for capital, or if you need it to cover, we have coolers in our basement that our restaurant's old. So a lot of our stuff is old. A cooler breaks. Oh, the air conditioning's not working. And you're like, but it's COVID. Please don't, I don't have time. Nothing can break. And then what happens? Everything breaks, right? Our Rosemont location, the roof needed to be repaired for months, and the landlord was kind of slow to coming around to it, and finally did. But before that, it monsoon rained in Chicago, and it was raining in the dining room.
Yeah.
3 days before we were supposed to open. So there's all these things, and it doesn't matter to me, the unifying thing. And one of the reasons why I think Allie and Collin and I feel so strongly about the coalition is hospitality in general. When you provide a service, intangible, and yes, some people within this industry make flowers or take photos, and those are, yes, tangible, but for the most part, it's an experience that we're all working together to create. And when you sit at a restaurant, your server, your manager, the branding, the owner, that's an abbreviated experience versus, say, a wedding or an event that might take longer to plan, right? But they're all experiential. So you're selling something that is based on your expertise, your branding, your team. That's not easy to do in these times. It's challenging, and it's frustrating, and it's scary, because also, while it remains intangible, the super duper tangible fact is that you've bled, your guts are in it, you don't sleep at night. It feels like a member of your family that's really opinionated, and it's your business. And so, and it's and all of a sudden, people ask you hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Instead of the, oh, hey, fine, good. My new response is just hanging off a cliff by my fingernails. How about you? Because what, who isn't?
What else are you going to say?
Yeah.
No, I think that's to the point of, listen, everybody's stress level is through the roof. I just saw, I forgot where it was. They were talking about that the most, obviously at first, one of the most searched terms was how to DIY your hair, DIY haircut. Now
and
it's
nails and
right. Now it's stress relief.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's how do I decompress? How do I meditate better? How do I, because it's so much. And I think people, sometimes we don't realize, because it seems like nothing. We're just, you're just at home, or you're not really doing stuff. So you don't realize the stress that it takes on you. So then when you see somebody else get a PPP loan, or you see somebody else get something that you really need, right? You lash out, you're frustrated, and whatever it is. And it's not to say that in another world, right, that they can comprehend the fact that no, everyone's hurting. Like you're not the only one hurting, but it's when you're literally trying to like, pull it all together.
I agree.
Everybody's got gray hairs now.
Yeah, and I think too, like something that we see a lot of is lack of compassion and lack of grace. A lot of these customers that are coming into the restaurant that argue about the mask or whatever our policies might be. We have 2-hour limits on our tables. You have to make a reservation. There are certain things we're very our team. And then also, did we lose her? She's still, I don't know. She's been, oh, there you go. Hello, are we back? Am I back?
I can hear you. You're
okay.
Frozen.
Am I like weirdly frozen?
But I like the face. It's funny. I love it. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Mainly to protect our staff, right? And then obviously to protect our customers. But people don't like it. People have opinions about it. And it is, someone is saying it's disappointing. However, it's also, for me, reversely inspiring, because when I see it, it makes me want to put that much more out there. And I think Collin
just that much more effort.
Way.
Absolutely.
We do a training every day at 3 p.m. with our team in both locations. We go over every COVID protocol, in addition to having like a normal shift meeting. And we talk, how are you feeling today? Are you scared? Are you this? Yeah. Don't forget about your gloves, and what did a customer get? Tell us about your experience. And we talk about grace, and we talk about do not go to a temper if you can help it. And like, I'm pretty hot-blooded, so that's not something necessarily, like, I don't always take that road. Like, someone comes at me a little bit and I'm like, but these days no, because so many people are going through so many things. I can't walk in the skin of all these other people, and they cannot walk in mine. So if I can just lead by example, right? I can't control them. I can't control the circumstances around me, but I can be in charge of me. And if I am in charge of me, maybe someone else will then also be inspired and be in charge of themselves. Absolutely. Right? Yeah. So that's kind of where I go with it. I mean, and we hear some crazy expletive stuff. Pretty much all the time.
That's a great way to put that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and honestly, I think that I love how you take the time anyone who's ever been in the hospitality restaurant industry, myself included, you remember those like shift meetings before,
yes.
But taking that time to use that, make sure that number one, everyone's informed. Mm-hmm. Number two, that everyone's feeling like they're reminded. Because I think it is so easy to just be overwhelmed, like just
absolutely
your own
and numb. You can be numb, like where you don't remember feelings. Like you have to do a mental health check, like pretty much 3 times a day. Yeah. And if you don't, you find yourself starting to feel a little bit like, the spinning beach ball on the Apple products, like you need to calibrate, for me at least.
Yeah.
And that's Allie for me is such a blessing, because she provides me such balance. My horses do. Don't worry, you do too. He was literally like, did you see him? Like, she's going to mention the
Collin's like right here. Yeah.
My parent, like we all kind of support each other and remind each other to do that. And I think you need that, now more than ever, your network. And I don't want to use terms like tribe or village, but your network, your team, the people with whom, like, I stand on a battlefield every day. They are the people, first of all, I'm honored to stand with them. And they are the people who get it, and so there's no better way to be like, are you okay? Because I know what that feels like. And then you're just more capable, I think, of going out into the world and like doing things that maybe before were really easy. Like I went to, for the first time ever, I went for a manicure pedicure.
Oh no,
there I am. Sorry. I went for a manicure pedicure, right? And I walked in and I was like hyperventilating because I was like, what? I don't know if I can do this. But it's a manicure. I mean, how many of us have done that 18,000 times? It's like, oh, where's the hand sanitizer? Are they wearing masks? They want me to sign something? Does that mean I'm going to get COVID? Like, and I'm rational and I live in this every day, and I still flipped out. So you just got to be kind, because like so many people, like I look at my parents my dad is on oxygen. He's immunosuppressed. He has interstitial lung disease. He really can't leave his house. What does that feel like? You know, I mean, I know to an extent because like they will call me and often fight with each other while on the phone with me now. So I can imagine, right? But like, you know, you're in your 70s, like you've earned a life, like you've earned the right to relax. And here you are dealing with this and your businesses. And it's a lot. And there's a lot of we are not unique. And our compassion should not extend only to ourselves. Right. So.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. I love that. And I think it's so important. I love the fact that, that you pointed out, because I mean, I do this with my family sometimes, like you'll call them up and you'll like fight with the person in your house over the phone to them. And then they'll be like, no, they're like trying to play reference, or else they'll just like find it
or
humorous.
She'll like hold it here. She's like, hold on. And then like, and I'm like, okay.
You're like,
yeah, hey, mom, and you start like doing the weird yell because you're sure they're going to hear you, right? And they don't.
No,
but,
no, love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Collin, why don't you tell me a little bit about, you said that you shot a wedding 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So what was it like? I mean, obviously as a photographer, you're usually not like up in people's faces anyways, but I mean, how was what was the kind of climate? Like what did everyone, how'd they feel?
It was interesting because it was my first experience actually photographing wearing a mask. And I think for the photographers that are watching this, if you haven't, definitely go out there and practice wearing a mask while holding a camera up to your face, because it was actually incredibly difficult.
And for extended periods of time.
To actually see through the eyepiece because it was fogging up every 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
So that was something I wasn't really expecting. But I had to kind of figure out a way to accommodate that. You know, it was interesting. It was a little bit surreal, but at the same time, it really shows that people are really truly going kind of back to what weddings are actually about. Mm-hmm. It's about a marriage, and being able to, the ceremony was beautiful. It was Reva Nathan was the planner, and HMR did all the floral for the chuppah and everything. And it was really beautiful, and everybody was socially distant, and everybody had masks on. But it was an interesting experience saying, okay, let's figure out how to take these photos with these masks and how to make things look beautiful while there is this barrier.
And when it's appropriate to not have
and masks. When is it actually, correct. And also, when is it okay to have people take those masks off, so that we're not compromising anybody in the wedding party or any of the wedding vendors as well.
Right.
You know, so it was a very interesting experience. It was a Wednesday afternoon, which I think was really lovely that they just fit it in. They planned it in a week, and it worked out really well.
Allie and I and Collin have spent a fair amount of time, as you know, working on our Illinois Events Coalition. And parallel to our efforts here in Illinois, there's been another group, the NACE Chicago had created like a COVID response team. And Megan Estrada is one of the leaders on that, as is a woman by the name of Juan. And both of them have been real leaders in talking about the need to save events through safe events. And I think Collin had a positive experience because that kind of information is out there, and it runs very much sort of, it has a beautiful synergy to what we've been doing at the coalition, which is really speaking out on behalf of the wedding and events industry in collaboration with the live events coalition that's more national, to speak out on how much revenue we have lost, the fact that this is not 1 year or one season, that it's going to affect us for 2. And, you know, all of the various things, talking to, you know, DCEO, which is the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity in the governor's office, and Senator Durbin, writing letters and all that stuff. It's moved beautifully parallel to their efforts, which has been, how do we create events within the parameters we have to operate within so that people can do what he's talking about safely. And recently we've had some conversations with Juan and Megan, and it's been really cool to see sort of that come back together, because, you know, here we are in July and we are seeing a little bit of a resurgence, smaller weddings. I don't like to say the word micro wedding. I don't like anything trendy. I'm just difficult like that. And so I like small celebrations myself. So, because it doesn't necessarily need to only be a wedding. It can be a small baby shower or a wedding
Agreed.
shower, graduation,
Right.
a mitzvah. I mean, celebrations in general, I think, are worth remembering. Milestone moments in life are what we live for. We don't
Right.
just get up in the morning and like exist, you know. And yes, work is important and hobbies and, you know, whatever. But milestone moments are the things that you live to celebrate. So the fact
Right.
that they're here still is good and should be the case, as long as, like Collin was saying, there is a real adherence to those guidelines. Same like restaurants, which goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, is it's so interrelated.
Yeah, no, and I love that. So for people who are not aware, so talk a little bit about the Illinois Events Coalition and what you guys, I mean, because you've been, I mean, it's mainly in, I mean, obviously because every state's different, but mainly in Illinois, but there's coalitions in all different states.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the main purpose is really to provide that unified voice, right? Because
Yes.
when it comes to, I mean, obviously right now they're all kind of debating in terms of like unemployment insurance and what's going
Right.
on. That runs
PUA.
out this week.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys heard anything in terms of like what Illinois is doing specifically? So like if they don't do like extended unemployment insurance, like I know that there's a lot of people in the events and the wedding industry that are counting on that extra money every week because they can't work. So
Yeah.
are there things that you guys, I don't know, unzip and can tell us?
So there are a lot of conversations that we have and that we are privileged to be a part of. And what I can tell you is this. So we are part of the Illinois Events Coalition. And then throughout the 50 states, there are, I think, at least 15 to 20 now.
Yeah, I would say 20
each
now.
individual state. And those of us, for example, we were inspired by what was created in DC with the DC Events Coalition. Allie found that while she was doing her deep dive research. I've mentioned on your live before, she's the best researcher in the history of researchers.
Yes.
And she connected with Jeanette, who is part of the DC Coalition, and they had a connection prior to this. They kind of gave us sort of the lowdown on how to start a coalition, and so on and so forth. We've done that for other states as well. And ultimately, what each state does is communicate on a state level and city level, if there's a city like, for example, like Chicago,
Right.
with legislative officials and lawmakers and people in charge of policy to learn, okay, do you know who we are? Do you know who we are as an events industry? Because that was a huge thing. The very first conversation that Collin and Allie and I had with one of the senators in Illinois, one of their aides, Collin asked a really valid question, and he was like, are you married? And he was like, no, not yet. And he's like, well, that's okay. No, it's not what I'm asking. Have you ever been to a wedding? And he's like, yeah, of course. Do you have any friends whose wedding is postponed? He's like, oh yeah, 3. And then I said to him, well, you know, those live press briefings that you do, those are events, just like the weddings are events that he's talking about. Just like everything is an event. A fundraiser is an event. All the people that put those on for you are not working. And like, this was really important, and still is, for Allie and Collin and myself. We are the first industry that really came to a grinding halt, and we will be one of the last that becomes fully operational anywhere near where we used to be. And so what's really a priority for us is to communicate with these legislative officials and say, look, here, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we impact. We have a huge ecosystem, right? We impact supply chains. We, think about caterers.
Yeah.
And how that's
food, agriculture,
live events, lighting, everything. There's so many supply chains that we impact on a very, very broad level, state to state, and then of course nationally. So we make sure that on a statewide level, we work to educate and create conversation with those people. And then we go back to the National Live Events Coalition, and because they are creating, their big goal is to create a nationwide lobbying effort on behalf of the industry, because that's never existed before.
Right.
Whereas like the restaurant industry has like the National Restaurant Association. Illinois has the Illinois Restaurant Association. We didn't have any of that to really protect ourselves. And we're a wide array of people. We are gig economy workers, contractors, entrepreneurs, LLCs, corporations. Some of us have, some of us are, places like floral and rental companies that have asset-based companies. Some of us are not.
Right.
Some of us have employees on salaries. Some of us do not. And so that's a wide range and a huge cross section of people that create a massive part of life for humanity. And they also work in unison to contribute gajillions of dollars across the country. That's not a technical term, to the
That's my
economy.
favorite word.
Yeah,
Gajillion.
from the city of Chicago to the state of Illinois to nationally. What Allie and Collin and I learned when we first started doing all this research and creating the letters that we wrote to the senators and the governor and the mayor, it was astounding. I mean, millions of dollars. Even by March, there were millions and millions of dollars just lost in revenue from food and beverage alone, and you figure conventions have event elements. Everything you can think of has an event element to it almost. And so it's our job to make sure that they understand all of that, who we are, what we do, how we're being impacted, and then most importantly, what help do we need? How can they help us? Where do we need the aid? How do we need the aid? And that's something that Allie has been such a leader on. We've been a little busy with the restaurant, so she's really sort of run with having these conversations almost on a daily basis, double booking her Zooms. God bless her, because we all know how fun Zooms can be, just to make sure that we have all the information we need, and what's going on with like the HEROES Act, what's happening with the Restart Act. Is funding coming our way? Will PPP be refunded? Will we be eligible for it?
Right.
All of that. I can't say specifically what we know because they ask us not to until it goes to a vote or it passes, and they always like to announce it, and we're fine with that. What I can tell you is they are taking all of this information now. The coalition has done surveys. We're actually working in tandem with the NACE COVID response group, thinking about other ways we can create information via surveys to help educate not only ourselves and fellow event professionals, but people outside the industry as well.
Yeah.
And they look at all of that information, and it helps them. It factors into their decisions. So by contributing and participating in the coalition, by being a part of the NACE COVID response team, you're lending your voice here in Chicago or Illinois, and then every other coalition, you're lending your voice to a place that's taking collective voices and speaking to people who matter about how to keep us going. Yeah. It's like, could you imagine what happens if the event industry were to bottom out and we don't exist? What does it look like? And the answer is
no.
It's unimaginable, and it should be, because it should never be an answer, right?
We had a blueprint, going back to the restaurant industry, we had a blueprint with the National Restaurant Association, the other NRA. And then we also had the Illinois Restaurant Association that is based in Chicago but represents the entire state. And they lobby so well, and they figured out a way to really raise a voice and get in touch with Senator Rubio, get in touch with Mitch McConnell, get in touch with Senator Durbin and those ranking members of the House and Senate to really force some change that have helped affect restaurants. And we kind of are using that a little bit as a blueprint to try to help at least raise awareness for the event industry.
And that's a lot of what the Live Events Coalition is doing now too. Isaac and Nancy and that team there, who are spectacular human beings. And the various coalitions, for example, Florida, a group in Florida had some real progress last week, having really good conversations with with Rubio, and in regards to the the restart. Right? Yeah. And so there are now those conversations, because we've taken the last few months on a state level and on a national level and built those conversations at those tables. Now there's dialogue. So it's starting to go somewhere. Does it move fast enough for our liking? No. Does anything? But it's moving, and I think that's the point. And I think the more voices that lend themselves to the collective, the farther we can go.
And I think that's so important for people to, if you guys aren't a part of your local coalition, definitely look and see if your state has one. Most of them are in Instagram. And then also, does the Live Event Coalition, do they have a listing of all like the local chapter
Yeah.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to their Instagram, go to their website and see, because I think it's important. I mean, any aspect of, whether you call it politics or government or any, however you want to dice it, the
Mm-hmm.
important thing is that we live in a democracy and our voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to be able to find ways, especially now when we all have a little bit more time to do these things,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
is that we can really contribute and make noise and let people know, like, this is something that's important, because especially when it comes to, I mean, our livelihood, our industry,
Well, and
and
here's
the
what
people
I
we serve. I mean, like,
yes,
imagine like there's
exactly.
like nobody left, and it's like, oh, I want to throw a party, I want to have a wedding, I want to,
or
wear
a press
it,
conference, or celebrate a milestone moment at a church, or a historic whatever it might be, right? There's events everywhere, and they can really unite, and they can really bring together for a common cause, and and they are beautiful, and they celebrate commitment and all of these things that many people fought really hard to have. So they should not go anywhere ever. I love when people say, love should not be canceled. I agree with that. Neither should life. And I think here's what I would say. So we live in a time right now that's like super interesting, to say the least. Politically, value-wise, beliefs. Like, you can't even disagree with someone anymore, because then you're just like arch nemesis. I'm back. Okay.
There you are.
So
We got a little battery.
That's kind of.
It's thinking. It's gonna come back. We're gonna connect.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
Just a little power issue.
My husband jumped in there trying to fix it.
Little power issue.
You ever have a husband try to fix stuff? Mm-hmm. I think it's
toast.
in the outlet that's not working. But anyway, what I was going to say is this: like, we live in this super polarized time, right? This is a prime example of how to be polarized. And you're going to hear some clicking now as he tries to find an outlet that works in the camper. I'm trying to say something serious, but so here's what I was going to say. So it's a lot lately. Like, you can't disagree with someone without being at total odds, and how you feel about something all of a sudden is politicized, and it describes who you are down to a cellular level, right? And you're good or bad or whatever the case may be. For me, it's very simple. I need to put food on the table. I need to allow for our teams to be able to do that. They have these beautiful, so many of the members of our teams that have worked with us. I mean, we have servers that have been with us 30 years. I've seen their children born. I've seen their children get married, have their own children. I love them like my family. They have every right to earn a livelihood. So for me, politics and all of that are important, absolutely. But survival and working together and having humanity. And for me, it's, you put your money into advertising when you own a business. You put your money into networking. You educate yourself. You do all of these things in normal times. Why would you not now? You don't have the money, but you don't necessarily need it to join the Illinois Events Coalition. Okay. There are, on a national level, asks for donations in terms of, because the lobbying efforts are not inexpensive, right? But the local state chapters typically don't require financial investment. And what you're doing is investing in yourself, your company, the amount of time that you've put in, right, to creating your business and your future. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah. I love it.
So that's kind of how we feel about, do some things need to be about politics? Yep. And do strong opinions matter? Yep. But for this, it doesn't really. I mean, you should want to protect and stand up for and speak for what you've created and what the people you work with have created too. For me, I think it's such a collaborative industry, which I think is what makes it so beautiful.
Absolutely.
That we should do everything we can to save it.
Agreed. 1,000,000%. Amazing. Thank you, guys. I always
Thank you.
Oh, our pleasure.
Like the best, seriously. Honestly, I'm like so mad that I didn't know that you had a restaurant when I was in Chicago, because now I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go eat there. And then I'm like, soon enough. I can't go anywhere.
I know.
You know, and then it's like
none of us can.
Food,
but
you post all these things, and I'm like, I would like that. I can't have that.
Soon enough. Well, I'm trying to work on a national way to order steaks from us. I'm working on that with Collin. But soon enough, you'll be back in Chicago. Yeah, you're gonna be the first one I call. You'll be back in Chicago. We're gonna get there. We're all gonna get there. And when we do, it's gonna be one heck of a meal, all together celebrating. Lots of wine.
Tons of wine.
Yes, wine. I'm for that. Yes, 1,000,000%. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Drive safely.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything again. Thank you everything that you're doing and all of the I mean, just speaking for so many people who can't contribute to that voice. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for giving us the chance to talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. And
go to the website, sign up.
Yeah.
Yes, so definitely go to the Illinois Events Coalition. They're on Instagram. You can go go to their website, sign up, and then also Allie's going to join us.
Oh, fantastic!
Yes, and she's going to talk a little bit more about. Also going to talk.
Felix wants you to join too.
Yes.
Yeah, very sorry.
Felix would like you to join the Illinois Events Coalition. Okay.
Yeah. She's talking about Allie. Can you give her a second to talk about Allie, please? Okay, go ahead.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
Allie has a special place for this heart. So
yeah,
there you go. I love it. Aww. So cute. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, guys, go find your local events coalition and join it and be a part of everything that's going on.
Yeah, or message us if you don't know where to go.
Absolutely.
IL Events Coalition is how you find us. And IllinoisEventsCoalition.com. You can always reach out to us and we'll help direct you. So
perfect. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Have a great night.
Have a great evening.